The following program was produced by an independent community producer. The opinions expressed do not necessarily reflect those of the ECAT staff or board of directors.
Welcome to For the Love of Words. I'm co-host Priscilla Almquist-Olsen, and tonight, November 8th, 2023, I have the great honor and pleasure to have one of the most talented guitar players and a child of the 60s like yours truly as my guest. And his name is Bruce Merlan. Tell us how you started in your childhood. Somebody must have handed you a guitar.
Actually, when I was about 5, I used to like to play the piano. And we didn't have one in our house, but there was one in a hotel we used to go to on vacation. And I spent a lot of time on my vacations just sitting at the piano, banging on the piano, you know, pretending I was singing and writing music.
Wow, so you had that musical gene in your system from the beginning.
Yeah, my dad was a violinist, so.
Oh, okay, and I understand your mother loved to sing, so there was music in your family, music in your genes, and I understand you have a grandson who plays the drums?
Yes, he does. He's really, proficient at it.
Uh-huh.
And he used to be in a band, but now he's has a profession, so you know how
well, you know,
life gets busy when you're in your 30s.
Yeah, it does. And then if you're raising a family too. But you know what? I'm sure that he's going to go back to it because once a drummer, always a drummer.
I know.
And you can't miss a beat, pardon the pun.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, I'll tell him you said that, and I bet he'll agree.
I hope so. Yeah, because it's a wonderful contribution. And to be part of a band the way you are is great too. So I understand your band is a wonderful band. What's the name of it?
BluesHawk.
BluesHawk. Okay, and your music is blues, and the song that you sang, you can't run away, or what's that?
You don't want to run.
You don't want to run, and I know there's a personal story behind that, but when you sang it, and because of the repetition of those words, it reminded me so much of Bob Dylan.
Well, thank you.
Did you get your inspiration from him and maybe from a few others of the 60s?
No, not really. I'm not sure, you know, where the inspiration for that. As a songwriter, I don't know. I guess I'd have to think about it a while, you know, to, you know, consider, you know, what songwriters. But I listen to a lot of different musicians, a lot of songwriters. Matter of fact, songwriting is kind of an interest of mine over and above being a musician. So I've like read books about it and so forth, you know. So I'm interested in all kinds of music and all kinds of songwriters. So to me, there's not much of a difference between Bob Dylan and Hoagy Carmichael. There's a difference in style, but not a difference in thematic concerns.
Yeah.
You know?
Well,
I mean, that doesn't change.
No, it doesn't. And
if I could write a song like Hoagy Carmichael wrote, I'd be thrilled. But I don't think that's.
Oh, I think your song "Freedom" would measure up to that.
Oh,
I really enjoyed that one, and that is such a topic that was prevalent in the '60s. We wanted freedom and civil rights and human rights and women's rights and freedom from war, the Vietnam War. So there's a lot of freedom in
yeah, I think we're still wanting that. Right?
That's just what I was about to say. You took the words right out of my mouth. Yes, and that longing and the need for freedom is unfortunately something that has been with us for our many years that we've been here on the planet, you and I. But I have a strange feeling that it's not going to come to fruition in the future, too soon in the future, unfortunately. But your song gives hope and inspiration, and I think that is so important, don't you?
Absolutely. I mean, you know, we are faced with so many challenges, and some of them are very old, perennial, and some of them are new to us as a race, as a human race. But I think for us to give up is, you know, impossible.
Right.
That's something that human beings don't do.
Right.
That's something that we, you know, we obviously don't embrace that idea of stop hoping. Because
As Winston Churchill said, never give up. Never give up.
yeah.
And what he's talking about is never give up on your dreams, never give up on your purpose, never give up on your mission in life. And you certainly have never given up, Bruce. And you have enjoyed many gigs over the years. But tell us about BluesHawks and why you're so proud and happy to be part of that band. BluesHawk was a band that I started about 8 years ago because I got tired of playing in other bands and basically dealing with arguments about the direction of the band and so forth. So I've been really lucky to work with many great people who wanted to contribute and cooperate, you know, and add to whatever vision I had of having a band. And right now there are 4 of us, and Mr. Stephen Cavey on bass from Stoughton. From Stoughton?
Yes, he's nearby. And
yes, he is.
Mr. Stephen Boyage from Kingston, Mass. On drums.
I thought this was a Rhode Island group.
I know, we're a bit spread out. And Mel Barboza on second guitar from New Bedford. And so we get together in a central location to practice.
I see.
Yeah.
So you have 3 Massachusetts players and 1 Rhode Islander.
That's right.
And but you're the king of the group, right?
No, I wouldn't say that.
Well, you're the
I might get in
organizer.
trouble. You're going to get me in trouble.
Tell me what blues.
No, we all talk a lot and share our ideas. And since we basically have a basic respect for each other, it never comes to a point where, you know, one person wants to push their idea over others.
Well, you know what?
Yeah.
I've been doing several of these interviews now that I've become co-anchor, and I've noticed with the bands that's always a common denominator, that there is trust but mutual respect for music, for ideas, for lyrics, that there's lots of collaboration. Do you find that's true of your group?
Oh, absolutely. The other, Mel, the guitar player, and Stephen, the bassist, will definitely tell you that Stephen, the drummer, is the best drummer they've ever played for, and I believe, played with, and I believe that myself, that I would say the same thing myself. And what he brings to the band, you know, what drummers bring to a band is something it's kind of intangible, you know, because they don't sing or they don't write words, you know, or they don't play notes. But what he brings to the band, you know, is
well, percussion is
very hard to
always
describe.
Yes, it's always like an exclamation point here and there for one thing, and it's the it's that beat.
It's the way he
and also
anticipates what we do.
And don't you think too with drummers, it's the use of the cymbals, which can also be very dramatic and emphasize certain lyrics.
Very much, and he's really good at that. And everybody in the band brings something particular, you know, unique.
So I understand you have on December 2nd coming up. You have a gig. And
that'll be our first official gig.
Oh, good. So this is a new band with a first official gig. Where is it going to be held?
It's at a place called Nicky's Lounge in Coventry, Rhode Island, on Route 3, Teague Avenue. And we're hoping that people will come down and see us.
Okay, so Nicky's?
Play some high-energy blues and some ballads. And
so you said Nicky's Lounge.
Nicky's Lounge.
Route 3.
Route 3.
In?
Coventry, Rhode Island.
Coventry, Rhode Island, and?
December 2nd.
December 2nd, and what time should people arrive?
I would say between 8 and 9 is good.
I'm sorry, between what?
Between 8 and 9.
Okay, between 8 and 9, all right. So what are your future plans for this band?
We're hoping to work more and also to get more exposure, you know, so that people can start hearing our particular brand of blues and what we do. And you know, right now that's all that we have plans for.
Well, you know, blues and ballads, B&B,
Yeah.
those are a common denominator for so many of what people long for today.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, they long for the peace, the comfort, it's almost like a caress, isn't it, when you have a ballad? And the blues are so emotional, and they grab on your emotions, and they make you remember the way things were, the memories that you have. It's very nostalgic, and it's also very calming.
I think it's
Very therapeutic.
I find blues to be a very subtle language. You know, that's very hard to describe exactly what it is. It's not exactly like jazz, but there is some improvisation involved, and I think I always think that it's more complicated than people think it is. You know, it does involve emotions. It also involves expressions of place and time. You know, and
Well, I'm sure that the lyrics, those types of lyrics, whether it's a blues song or a ballad, sort of, in many instances, dictate the music. Isn't that true? And does it happen vice versa?
Yeah, I think when you play, like for example, a solo on a blues song, you're influenced by the feeling of the song, of the subject of the song. You know, so you respond to what you're singing. You know, so if it's a blues, what they call slow blues, is more of a more emotional thing. You know, a more up-tempo blues with a more of a up-tempo kind of theme. You know, you're looking at something that's more
Happy?
more fun. Yeah.
Happy and fun.
Different emotions.
Yeah. Well, I want to thank you so much for joining me on For the Love of Words. And
It's been my pleasure.
Yes, and you do have a love of words, and it's wonderful to see you combine your lyrics with some soulful music. Thank you, and good luck to you. And for those of you who want to enjoy some great blues and ballads and bring you back to, for some of us, to our youth, go to Nikki's Lounge in Coventry, Rhode Island on Saturday, December 2nd. Get there at 6:30?
Oh, I would say 8 o'clock.
8 o'clock. Okay, get there at 8 o'clock, and you're going to be entertained by BluesHawk, and entertained beautifully. And Bruce Merlan is the leader of the pack, and he enjoys making music with his three compadres. Thank you so much, Bruce, for being with us.
Thank you.
And thank you, audience, for enjoying For the Love of Words with Bruce Merlan and Priscilla Almquist-Olsen, your host. Until next time, be well.
This is a little song called Hold On to Heaven. It's I don't have much to say about it because I don't know where it came from. But anyways, I've been a stranger in the house of love. Been down those highways that are blue, slave to production in the hands of time. Gave up the things I thought were true. I'm gonna hold on to heaven. Hold on to heaven. a sea of tears, without a thing that's left to say. No words of salvation will save them from being a prisoner of the day. I'm gonna hold on to heaven. Gonna hold on to heaven. I'm gonna hold on to heaven and the spirit of love. Gonna keep the devil down and thank the Lord above. I'm gonna hold on to heaven and the spirit of love. Gonna keep the devil down and thank the Lord above. Down to the river in my hour of need, with me the promise that you gave. Your words of betrayal will not keep me from saving the things that I can say. But I'm gonna hold on to heaven and the spirit of love. Gonna keep the devil down and thank the Lord above. Gonna hold on to heaven and the spirit of love. Gonna keep the devil down and thank the Lord above. I'm gonna hold on to heaven. Hold on to heaven. Thank you. I was only watching the news like we do so often, and when I got to thinking about the pressure that we all feel nowadays, you know, with everything going on and being faced with it through the TV and whatever, online and everything. Got a worried mind, but I don't want to blame. Keep all your sorrow, keep all your shame. Some revolutions no one can see. Got a worried mind, but don't worry. Got a worried mind, but it won't worry me. Got a worried mind, and I don't care what's real. I'll keep on from living that I can steal. Some revolutions move very slow. Got a worried mind, and I don't wanna know. Got a worried mind, and I was in your worn-out games. Some revolutions are meant to be. Got a worried mind and I'll just let it be. Got a worried mind and I'll just let it be. You used to be among the ones who try to touch the open sky. You used to be among the ones who laughed at those who passed you by. There are no secrets they can tell you. There is no heaven to be found inside the heart of one who wanders o'er the dark and lonely ground. And you don't have to run. Don't have to run. You don't have to chase the sun. And you don't have to run. Give me a song that I'll remember. Give me a story I can tell, and I'll stay here until November, and I'll just say fare thee well. We've been friends since the beginning. We will always be friends. But I am dreaming of the highway. And so for now we've got to end. And we don't have to run. And you don't wanna run here, and you don't wanna catch the sun, and you don't have to run, and you don't have to run, no. And you don't have to run. And you don't have to catch the sun. And you don't have to run. And you don't have to run. And you don't have to run. is called Child of Freedom. And freedom is something that I've wondered about for a very long time. And you could say that it's been a healthy preoccupation for me. Because it's led me places that I probably wouldn't have went to if I hadn't thought about it. You got your silver and you got your gold. You got a sweet dream hidden in your soul about the way things really ought to be. But you ain't got nothing if you can't be free. Waited on the train. Store all my thought dreams, wash away like rain. It ain't salvation that can never be. And all those things that I'll never see. Child of freedom, child of pain, child of sorrow, born inside the rain. Nobody knows them, and nobody sees all of the thought dreams that occur to me of liberation and release. And all those things that I'll never see. Child of freedom, child of pain, child of sorrow, standing in the rain. Child of freedom, child of pain, child of sorrow, born inside the rain. Child of freedom, yeah, yeah. Child of freedom,
Good evening and welcome to the November 2023 edition of For the Love of Words. Tonight's poet is David R. Surette. David's new book of poetry is Tonic. He is the author of 6 other collections, including Stable and Easy to Keep, Hard to Keep. Both have been honored by the Massachusetts Book Awards. His poems have recently featured in the anthology From the Farther Shore, Discovering Cape Cod and the Islands Through Poetry, and in Three Nations Anthology, Native, Canadian, and New England Writers, winner of a Maine Book Award. David lives on Cape Cod, and I would just add that he is one of the most respected, best loved, and well-known poets in the South Shore area. He is featured on many, many poetry venues in the past, and I've had the pleasure of being present when he does a reading. So tonight, you are in for a treat. Welcome, David.
Thank you. Nice to be here.
I usually ask everyone, that the poets that come, what was the first thing that drew you to poetry?
Oh, wow. I was at the Boston Writers for Teachers, and we were told we had to every day bring some piece of writing. And so I know I didn't have any poetry, but I had lots of stories I had written, and I didn't want to bring in something I already wrote, so I turned the first story into a poem, brought it, and it was such a great reaction to it that I thought, well, let's see what else I could do with this collection of stories. And that was it. That was the beginning. And then my thought was, I think it was maybe a few months before Thanksgiving, so I thought for Thanksgiving I would bring my family a collection of all the poems I wrote about Malden. So I went from one poem to like 25 poems and made a little book. And this is just like for myself, for nobody else.
Right.
So that's how I started.
I'm curious, are any of those 25 poems that were in that little book just for you, did any of them ever make any of your collections?
Yes, the collection before this one I named Malden. And what I did was collect every poem I ever wrote about growing up in Malden, from birth to 18 years old. So yes, but yeah, actually I think the first poem I wrote, I don't think I've written a better poem.
Really? What was the first poem?
It was called Basements, and it's the first poem I ever got published. It was published in Peregrine. Yeah, I don't think I've topped it yet. So.
Okay. Will you be reading that tonight?
No, actually, I'm just going to read new poems from the new book.
All right.
Because I want everybody to buy the new book.
That makes sense. That makes sense. What is it about poetry that you think stands out the most for most people? What is the characteristics of poetry that draw people to it?
I think it's because it's sort of a compressed emotion, that you read it, it's just a little burst of emotion, and it makes you feel a certain way, and the better the poem, the stronger you feel. I think it's that little, it takes a very short time to just give you a, and that's what I'm always aiming for, is that, Right.
My memory is you're not a long poem writer.
No, I'm pretty much, I try not to let the page control what I write, but I really do write one-page poems.
Okay.
I really try to compress it so that only the good stuff stays.
Now, although I did not mention it in the introduction, in your past you've been a teacher.
Yes, I taught for 33 years. I taught in Waltham for 15 and then East Bridgewater for 18.
Which grades did you teach?
Well, I was licensed to teach high school, but when I was first hired, there were no English positions, but they hired me anyway. So I taught kindergarten through 12th grade. 6 years in the middle school where I learned how to teach. And then finally my last maybe 10 years were in high school. And I finally made it to seniors. Like the last 4 years, I finally got the grown-ups. So I taught, and I taught out of my subject too.
I'm just curious, of all those different grades that you taught, not necessarily which class was the most connected to what you were teaching, but which one did you have the most fun with? Or could you make that decision?
I think what I think of is because I like to teach the kids who aren't necessarily in love with school, and I don't know, value them so much, love them up so much that they bought into what I was selling. So I love doing that. I actually was so good at it that I was often given challenging classes to teach. But there's something to it. You know, I also taught AP classes with kids who just, you know, dying to learn things.
Right.
So I think it's the same thing. I think either inspiring kids who would never think that they would like a poem or or a great novel, or to write something wonderful, and then for kids who came already, kind of motivated. So either one, I loved both, and I felt good about both.
Did you have the opportunity, or I should say occasion, did you have the occasion to introduce your own poems into any of these classes that you taught?
I kind of let them discover that I was a poet. I taught a lot of poetry, but I didn't bring my own poems in. But I did enough local readings that I would do a reading like at the Easton Library, and the kids would show up and it'd be wonderful. So, it's also funny too, because I was also the hockey coach. And I remember a tweet from an opposing hockey coach was that, what kind of hockey players would play for a poet?
Well, if my memory, and please correct me if I'm wrong, but you were a hockey player.
Yes.
Long before you became a hockey coach.
Yes, I grew up playing hockey from.
Right.
I was on skates at 2.
So the question would be, what kind of hockey player is a poet?
That's right. That's right.
Are there any projects that you have going at the moment?
Yes. Actually, something very exciting happened maybe 2 days ago. I signed the contract for a novel. So I'm going to have a novel coming out next year. It's in the publisher's queue now. And what they're promising is a book, an ebook, and an audio book.
Okay.
So I'm very excited about that.
Okay.
And it just happened, and I just signed it, and I just got it back signed, so I know it's real and it's true. So I'm very excited about that.
Can we have the title?
It's called Favors.
Favors?
Yes.
Favors.
Yes, it's Favors, and it takes place in 1981. It's sort of a punk rock hockey crime novel. and it's sort of the idea of who does favors for whom.
Okay.
And
Okay.
we see how it turns out.
Okay.
It's very different than my poems. My poems are very kind of sweet and gentle. This, I think, is a little more.
Is it set in a specific named city?
The city isn't named, but people drive through Revere and Everett and Somerville to get there. So I never say the word Malden. But
well, you just saved all these people are pulling out their
Yes.
phones, or they're going to
Yes.
their computers. What's between Revere?
right. And the character lives in Edgeworth, which is a neighborhood. I just, on purpose, just left the name off. But it's really clear what it is.
Okay. All right. Well, we'll look forward to that. So you don't have a tentative publication month.
No, I just signed it,
You
and
just
they said,
signed-
and they just, yeah. They,
So like it's literally in the queue.
yes, and
Yeah.
it has to be, it's got to be edited. It has to, all those things,
All those
covers
things.
and all that.
Yep.
So it's sort of hurry up and wait, but it's so fresh and so new, and I'm
Good.
really
Well,
happy.
congratulations.
Thank you.
Couldn't happen to a nicer, better writer.
Thanks.
But does that mean that, well, let me ask this question. Is there any intertwining of poetry in the novel, or have you managed to keep those concepts separate?
I think how they're different because of the length and because I got to create people and have people do things that I never did or never would do even. But I think I paid attention to the language. I wanted to make it. I wanted to. If it was going to be a crime novel, it's going to be a literary crime novel. I wanted to make. So I think I worked really hard on the sentence and the paragraph as much as the plot or what happens to these people. So I hope so. I hope the language is really strong. That was my goal.
Now, for the benefit of those people out there who watch this show who are writers themselves, was this a process, getting this novel accepted for publication? Was it a long process for you to get that far along?
I was 105 rejections between agents and publishers, especially agents wanted nothing to do with me.
Really?
No, so it was over 100 rejections. So, and I kept, everybody says the same thing, you just need one acceptance.
Right.
And I had a friend who is a novelist, and he wrote to me and he said his publishing company is going to open submissions for 2 weeks. He told me this on the Friday when they're closed on Saturday.
Oh,
So I sent it Friday. So yeah, I can't tell anybody how to do it. I just kept sending it and sending it and sending it. And as I sent it, I kept writing and rewriting. But yeah, I finally got one.
Like I said, congratulations. Can we look forward to readings from the novel once it's out?
Oh yes, I'm gonna, yes.
Yeah, I mean, I know you read your poetry
Yes,
frequently.
no, absolutely. One of the things I said to everybody I sent the book to is that I know how to work a book. I mean, poetry mostly is sold, hand to hand.
I know it well.
Yeah,
Yep.
so you know that too. So that's how you sell poetry. So I'm not afraid of. I will read wherever, whenever they want me to.
Right.
I just, I want people to read it, and I want the publisher to be super happy because I've already written the sequel.
Oh, you have?
Yes.
Wow. Okay. And does the publisher know that
Nope,
there's a...
not
no,
yet.
No, well, they do if they watch this little cable show.
Yeah. There's the two characters at the end. I had to decide if they live or die, because if I wanted to write the second part, they'd have to, at least one of them has to live.
Right. Oh, that's very exciting. That's very exciting. When you got the acceptance, was it, I understand what you just said, but was it through a literary agent, or
No,
it was really just
somebody
that you knew who was a novelist?
told me it was I don't know if I can tell the company yet, but
That's all right.
They said they have never had open submissions. That they always, and they either went through agents or they
Right.
sought
Right.
out the books themselves. And like I said, it was 2 weeks. They were going to open it up for 2 weeks, and I hit it
Just
by luck and by this
by
wonderful
hard
friend of
work,
mine.
though. I mean, the luck part might have been that little 24-hour
Right.
window. That might have been the luck part. But the acceptance part is the result of all the hard work that you put into it.
Right. That's what they always say in hockey, is that the guy who works really hard gets all the luck. So I hope that's it.
Yeah, I think that's probably true in most endeavors, be they hockey or writing or whatever. Well, we look forward to hearing your poems this evening.
Thank you.
I think that the audience, if they're not familiar with you, and I'd be surprised given our regional audience that we have, there's probably many people out there who are familiar with your work. So I'm sure that they're looking forward to hearing you read tonight, just as I am. Thank you so much for coming.
Well, thank you for having me. Hello. I'm going to be reading from my new collection of poetry called Tonic. And it's just been released, and I've been reading just about everywhere to spread the word. And it's my follow-up to Malden, my last collection. And I thought when I wrote it that I'd be done with my Malden poems. But my good friend Tom Cronin sent me our 5th grade yearbook about 2 years ago. And after reading the class predictions, I ended up with a bunch of Malden poems. So this is 5th grade yearbook. The 1968 Our Community, published by the 5th grade Class B of Immaculate Conception School, Malden, Massachusetts, in memory of Robert F. Kennedy. I will grow up to be an historian. Further down it notes, I am most popular, so I have that going for me. But truth to tell, I tied Tommy Cronin, who swept the rest of the superlatives. But what about the 2 Carberry boys, ordained to be loan shark and garbage collector, or Joanne Breen's go-go dancer, or Robert LaRose works for the circus? How did life work out for them? I wonder if class poet Mary Theriault is somewhere sitting, clutching a thin volume of poetry, waiting to hear her name called so she can go up to the podium and read to the dozen folks, each holding their own. That crowd might include me. I didn't grow up to be an historian, unless you count my endless desire to spill my own. Making out, Malden High School, 1973. They made out between every class on the stairway platform between the 1st and 2nd floor. 2,000 students changing class pushed up and down the stairs as they kissed, oblivious to the bodies brushing by. Her blonde hair fell down her long back, and his afro burst like a dandelion, brown cheek pressed to white. I sat outside the principal's office when they arrived, about a dozen, purpose in their gait. I didn't hear their demands, but I heard the angry response. They marched out, heads bowed, cowed, and angry. Now they want their own prom, the principal said to me, his only audience now. I didn't know what they had already asked for or why this was one thing too many. Later that year, we all gathered in the auditorium for the kickoff of the Sickle Cell Anemia Awareness Campaign. It brought out the racists in some kids, stuff I'm too cowardly to repeat. A large man guided Stevie Wonder to the piano. Stevie Wonder, I'm not making this up. He sang, very superstitious, the devil's on his way. But the devil was already here. The angels fearlessly kissing on the stairs. Since my retirement, I've moved to the Cape, and I moved to the town that we used to go vacation when I was a little kid. And that sort of brought back some memories from my childhood on the Cape. So this is a few memory poems from my childhood on the Cape. Saltmarsh Lane, Cape Cod, 1966. It was summer. I know this because I wore only shorts, felt the packed sand beneath my bare feet, smelled the sulfury marsh behind me. We played basketball, the hoop high above our heads, nailed to pitch pine. We heaved the ball underhand, not yet capable of holding the ball over our heads. We took turns, no dribbling, just an awkward bouncing in place. I don't remember talking, maybe laughing with her. I squatted and tucked the ball between my legs, heaved it to the net. I followed it with my eyes. It clunked off the ring and plopped back in front of me. I looked at her, staring at me like I had pulled a knife on her. She looked once behind her, then twice, and ran. I had no idea what had come over her. What had I done to scare her so? Did someone call her? Was she coming back? A breeze between my knees, a quick lookward downward, revealed my split shorts where I had dropped through. I didn't mean anything, it just happened. Hey, man, she was fast. I pushed myself back up and went inside to chuck the fending shorts in the barrel. Ginger. She piloted a Boston whaler up and down the estuary alone. Cut-off jeans and a bikini top, golden skin. Her blonde ponytail flowed out the back of her cap. I watched her from the hill above whenever I visited Dave McBride at his cottage in West Yarmouth. He pretended not to notice me staring at her faraway figure. One day he told me her name, Ginger. That night my father took the family for ice cream, and on the sign of 50 flavors was ginger. My father asked if I was sure when I ordered it instead of my usual strawberry. I pretended to like it, still young enough to believe that the number of times I got ice cream was finite, and I had just wasted one. I count kisses, too. I never risk missing out on a chance to kiss the woman I love, each one tasting of the freshest strawberries, sweet as ice cream. I did teach for 33 years in the public schools, so if I may, I'd like you to read a poem from the beginning of teaching, the middle of teaching, to the end of teaching. So this is teaching. My first teaching practicum was a kindergarten, February and cold, Waterville, Maine cold. The children clumped in, boots, ski pants, scarves, mittens, sweaters, hats, that filled the overheated room with the sense of wool and snow. They lined up and the teacher and I commenced the work. Mittens shaken off, left dangling, hats removed, stuffed in pockets, scarves unwrapped, hung on hooks, jackets pulled off, left waiting, boots pulled free, squeezed into cubbies.
The teacher wiped the noses that needed wiping. When the last child was settled, it was time to get him redressed for the journey back home. I was an English teacher, but at the beginning of my career, I taught a lot of different subjects. So I taught 9th grade geography. I planned a chapter ahead in fake teaching knowledge of the subject. Before Christmas break, I assigned a project, Holidays Around the World. It goes as expected until Jared steps to the front of the class and announces, St. Dominique's Day. Here's one I don't know. I lean in to listen. He talks of women walking down to the village square, carrying the giant phallus. The giant what? I say to myself and scan the classroom. The class pretends to listen. There's not even a smirk. The women prostrate themselves in front of it and weep with joy. The presenter admits no adolescent giggles. Had he bothered to look up prostrate or phallus? He finishes reading, bows, and places the report on my desk, all smiles. Thank you, Jared. I made a video too, Mr. Surette. Maybe another day, Jared. And then a poem I wrote in the last year of teaching. It's called Fingerprinted. The shop hid between the mold doctor and something gone out of business. She was a pretty petite blonde, no makeup, no jewelry, jeans, and a t-shirt bright with an assault rifle. America, I'll defend it. There was an empty baby seat. Her hands were small. She guided mine with a teenage girl's touch on a boyfriend's hand on a gear shift. She couldn't have been gentler, nicer as she pressed and rolled. I made it 60 years out of the system. I committed no crime except to keep a job in the public schools. I imagined saying to her that we could leave right now, empty the saving accounts, and drive till the money runs out, and then rob our great way across this country of ours, a real old-fashioned crime spree. She already had the guns. Let's give these fingerprints an adventure. Instead, she handed me the receipt. I stuck it in my wallet to retrieve it for the central office, which was 2 flights and 6 security cameras down from my classroom. People often ask, did the kids change in 30 years? And I said no. I always say no, except that they're no longer safe at school. A couple of poems for my wife. We've been together, maybe, I shouldn't get the number right, but 48 years. But I didn't always get everything right. So this is one of my gifts. She could tell I was pleased with myself. You're gonna love it. A shadow passed over her eyes when I placed the box on her lap. The box, too big. Unless it was a set of Chinese boxes ending with a tiny velvet box containing you-know-what. I had screwed up again. It was a pair of ice skates. I had pictured her holding my hand as we glided over the ice, the only surface in which I had any grace. The very picture of 2 people in love. She didn't say a word, grinned, and tried them on. We did skate once, me in my Bauer Supremes, she in her bright white Rydels. She said they hurt her feet. Before COVID, my wife was working on Martha's Vineyard. And it was the first time in our whole time together that we were actually apart on a routine basis because she had to commute on the ferry. So this is the poem that came from being alone 3 days a week. Martha's Vineyard Hospital. My wife worked on the island. She commuted on the ferry from Woods Hole, leaving retired me alone for a couple of days a week. I pulled her old photo book off the shelf, all the hers before I first saw her. When she returned, I told her how beautiful she was and how I wished I had known her then, known her all my life. She made a face like she had just bitten into a lemon. She tried to make me feel better. She told me in the beginning she thought I was too pretty to date. And that does make me feel a little better, although I haven't been pretty for decades. You have to use your imagination that I was once pretty. In this collection of poems, besides surprising myself how many I wrote for my wife, I wrote quite a few for my father. So I'd like to do 2 for my father and then a final poem. This is a good time of the year to read this poem, a World War II monument. I pull over to surprise my father. Come with me, Dad. I wanted to show him where he and his brother's names were newly etched. My mother stayed in the car. Come on, I said, it's cool. She remained in her seat. I already know his name, David. Bella Pratt's sculpture stands above Bell Rock Park, the bells long silenced. The Marine waves a flag, Army and Navy crouch on guard. We follow the paths led by Olmsted, ignore memorials for the Civil and Revolutionary Wars, past Michael Wigglesworth's plaque. I stare my father to his and his brother's war. On the wall, engraved neighbor names, classmate names, Malden names, served and survived and those who died. My fingers read history's braille. Most are dead now. In a few years, my father joined them. My mother, who waited in the car, sits daily next to his empty chair. Last one. I was surprised as everyone departed, 2 at a time, a backwards arc. Didn't they hear? Didn't they know? No one should die alone, and no one should be alone to wait, but I was alone to wait. A nurse who was so tall, maybe 6'2", checked on him and said, it's only a matter of time. My younger brother, late as usual, finally appeared and said little. He waited until the tall nurse turned and said, he's gone. I expected more than this terrible absence. She wrapped me in her arms, this very tall nurse. My brother stepped back to the wall like he was facing a firing squad. Now, I wrote most of these, well, all these poems in the COVID years. I wrote about 70 and boiled them down. And I end the collection with a poem about the end of COVID. On the back of my book, when you buy it, there's a picture of 4 friends. It's me and my 3 best friends. 2 of them I've known since 7th grade, and 1 that I've known since pretty much birth. He was my next door neighbor. Long Lake, Bridgeton, Maine, August 2021, for Dave, Jim, and Tom. We have hidden from the pandemic for 2 years. Vaccinated and tested, we meet in Maine. 4 friends for more than 50 years, long forgiven faults. Deep into the drink and the dark, around a fire, a few feet from the lake, I ask, is there anything left to believe in? Anything? There are no arguments here. My friends say, just appreciate the best in our lives. Know that we love and are loved. I don't know if that's enough. As they go to bed one by one, I strip and walk into the lake, hoping to awake something or to find a place in the lake's blessing. In the morning, I collect my shoes, clothes, phone, and glasses. All I had lost in the dark. Thank you.